Do you have an emergency fund? Are you actively working at getting out of debt? Do you really know where your money goes? Have you determined your financial goals? Stay tuned. I watch a lot of prepping channel videos on YouTube, and I also watch a lot of homesteading videos. And it got me thinking a bit, because it seems like the highest rating prepping videos are usually a review of an item. Now, I don't know how many flashlights people need, but these reviews seem to be very, very popular. Now, on the homesteading channels, it's more the do-it-yourself video that I think gets highest ratings. So, prepping channel, how to spend money, and homesteading channel, how to save money. And I really think that in prepping, we need to emphasize a little bit more to strive for financial independence. I think that's really an important part of prepping. I was raised that you pay cash for everything, even a car. My parents paid cash for a brand new car. Well, there was one exception, and that was the house mortgage. But otherwise, there was no credit card debt or anything of that nature. If you wanted something, you had to save up the money to get it. Now, when I was first married, my husband was attending school on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings while working full-time. He was working on his bachelor's in business administration. And I was working full-time and attending school on Monday and Wednesday nights, working on my MBA. So we were very busy, but we didn't have a lot of money. So what we used was the envelope system, okay? We had various envelopes, and we wrote on the envelope. One might be for utility bills, another one for food, entertainment, gas, whatever. So we cash our check, and then we put it in the envelope, the various monies. And that was our budgeting system. And it worked really well for us. Now, sometimes there wasn't money left over for entertainment, but it was very visible. We could see it, so we knew it. Other times, we were a little lacking in the food department. And I have to admit, we kind of cheat then. We just happened to stop over at one of our parents' house near dinner time, and we'd get a free meal. But I digress here. My husband was raised a little bit more with, he wanted something, he got it. So this system worked really well for him to visibly see that we didn't have the money to buy something. Well, nowadays, I think cash is no longer king. It's more the debit card or the credit card. And it's a little bit harder, I think, to budget and see where your money goes. I am not a financial expert by any means, and I'm really not a frugal person. However, I have always met my financial goals, and I like to know where my money goes because I want it to go where I want it to go, not just out there. So I thought I'd talk about some of the basics of handling your money. Well, first you got to determine, what are your financial goals? Is it to pay off your mortgage in 10 years? Or maybe it's to save a down payment for a house. Or get that cabin in the woods that you've always wanted. Whatever it is, write down your goals and put in the amount of money it'll take to achieve it and a timeline when you'd like to achieve that goal. Track where your money goes, because you know what? Otherwise, it's just going out there, and who knows where it ends up. So, when it was the old checking type accounting, you had your checkbook, you wrote in your checkbook what the amount was and who it went to, and I think it was a little bit maybe easier to keep track of your expenses than using the debit card now, as we all seem to do. But you can easily do it just every weekend, kind of jot down your expenses and keep track of it. I know I use an Excel spreadsheet, but there is software such as Quicken, and Intuit has software called Mint, which actually ties into your debit card and your different bank accounts and automatically keeps track of what you're using it for. Sometimes the categories are a little screwy. But with Mint, you have to remember that your financial data is up there in the cloud and it could be prone to hacking. So that's a decision you have to make. But determine where your money is going. Okay, you figured out where your money is going. Maybe it's not always going where you want it to. So now it's time to come up with a realistic budget. Put down all your sources of income and your monthly and annual expenses. And be very realistic. Always include a little padding for the unexpected because it will happen. You might have to take a pet to a vet, or a child needs a new uniform for school, or something like that that you hadn't planned. So make sure you have that as a line budget. I just call it padding. And again, you can write it down on paper, or you can use, as I do, an Excel spreadsheet or other software, whatever works for you. You have to make sure that you save up and have an adequate emergency fund. And this emergency fund is for unexpected, let's say, car repairs, or you lose your job, unexpected medical expenses, something like that. It is suggested that if you're a one-income household, you should have an emergency fund that equals about 6 months of expenses. If you're a two-income household, then a minimum of 3 months. Now, I can tell you personally, my husband has lost his job 3 times over our marriage, and it's difficult. One time it was actually for 18 months, so yeah, that 6-month emergency fund will only take you so far. But boy, it's a relief to have that and at least know that there's something out there in case the unexpected happens. So being a good prepper, you have to have that emergency fund. Learn to differentiate between wants and what you really need. And that's kind of where I'm getting at with a lot of prepping channels, because it makes me think I need something when I really only want it. And maybe if you don't have the money for it, then you shouldn't get it. Or I have always worked a part-time job in addition to owning a business and working full-time. In the beginning, I used to do bookkeeping on the side, and for the last 20 years, I teach approximately 1 to 2 courses online at our local university. So that brings in some extra income. So if I want to take an exotic vacation, I have the money for it. So sometimes if that want is really important to you, figure out how you can meet that want without breaking your budget or not meeting your financial goals. It might be bartering for it, selling another item, or getting a part-time job. And finally, as a prepper, there's one additional thing. You really should have a cash stash in lower denominations that you keep somewhere safe in your house. And that's in case the power would go out and you can't get into the ATM to get money, or the banks are closed. You do have some money in an emergency. Now, don't put your whole life savings in your mattress. That is not what I'm talking about. And remember that this cash could be stolen if your house is broken into or if you have a fire. So be prudent. But as a prepper, you should have some immediate cash available to you. Well, that's all I have for today, but I really do think we need to think about being financially independent.